Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into night 5 of the Pros versus Joes competition for 2026 in the Fantasy Football Players Championship. Greetings and salutations to all of you Balkaholics. This is indeed the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com, the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, bringing my co-host shortly. Tonight, we have the 5th of 6 extra special episodes for you. It's the 2026 FFPC Pros versus Joes 3 and Out League number 5 draft tonight. We'll be covering it for its entire duration. Follow along with the live draft board tonight. Watch our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action to see who's going to win a 2027 FFPC main event squad. Shout out to the chat room right now. Post any questions you might have in there. You can connect with us on X at HSFFhour, at Eric Balkman. And, of course, Dave Terpoli can be reached at Dave Terp. Facebook.com/HSFFhour is where to find us there. highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com is where you can email us. We'll try to get to all the chat room questions, X posts, and emails throughout the stream tonight. Thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend Rob and our audio engineer and my best friend Bryce. Please welcome in the 14-time FFPC League champ. As I said, you connect with him on X at Dave Terp. He is Dave Terpoli. Dave, good evening and welcome to night number 5, man.
What's going on? How we doing tonight, guys?
We're doing good. Now, the jersey we have to get out of the way. This is 82 for the Chiefs. Who are we?
Bow.
You know, I should. Here's the thing. I have a Dwayne Bowe Chiefs jersey. And if we get a chance tonight, I'm going to sneak off and I'm going to put my Dwayne Bowe jersey on. So
People are probably going to look at us like we're really weird.
Well, no, but that's the thing. It's like Pros versus Joes 2026, and we're both wearing Dwayne Bowe jersey. That's
we totally didn't plan it at all. That's a good idea. Like doing like a little quick commercial break or something. I like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that we'll do shortly here. Want to remind everybody, the FFPC Pros versus Joes is made up of 42 industry pros and 42 FFPC Joes. How those Joes were selected, it was from a random drawing for everybody who had their main event teams for 2026 paid in full by the early bird deadline, which was May 31st. Tonight, one winner in this draft, whoever wins this league, will play it out, is going to win a free entry into the 2027 FFPC main event, a contest that will feature $1 million grand prize, as well as an entry fee of $2,200. So there's some big stuff on the line here tonight. Without further ado, let's get to it. We have the first round already in the books. My God, are we
moving quick?
Terp? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, here's what we got for tonight. We have Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein, Parenzuela, beg your pardon, who has been a guest on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour before. He and Hanstein go ahead and draft Jahmyr Gibbs with the number 1 overall pick. No surprise there. The second pick is the FFPC Joe, who I believe won this competition. No, he's an FFP. He's an industry pro who I believe won this competition with Theo Greminger a few years ago, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Maybe okay. Dan Williamson at Overhyped Sleeper from PlayerProfiler on the X takes Bijan Robinson. A wide receiver run here. FFPC Joe Harry Mills drafts Jamar Chase. Dwain McFarland from FantasyLife takes Puka Nacua, another former guest of the HSFF Hour. I think he was actually in season 1 or 2. He's an OG. Jackson Smith and Jigba to Fred Huang, who you saw on this show probably about 2 months or so ago. Fred Huang takes a Jackson Smith in Jigba there. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes to the fantasy guru from FantasyPoints to John Hansen tonight at the 6th spot. Jeremiah Turner and Chris Herbert end up selecting Ashton Genty at the 107. Brock Bowers falls to the 108 tonight. Justin Boone from Yahoo Fantasy takes him there. And then 4 straight running backs to end round 1. You have Christian McCaffrey going to Nolan Cradell and James Doubleday. James Cook off the board to the auction brief host and Footballguys contributor. Drew Davenport takes James Cook. Omarion Hampton to John Flake and Dave Nichols, a.k.a. Jay Flake, takes Omarion Hampton there at the 11th spot. And Mauricio Gutierrez from Estadio Fantasy takes Jonathan Taylor to round out round 1. Terp, there has been a, I don't want to say a groundswell because that's too aggressive, but I have seen a lot of FFPC high stakes players starting to draft Amon-Ra St. Brown over Jackson Smith and Jigba. We don't see that tonight, but it is a battle right now. If you are drafting in the mid-first and you're dead set on a receiver, Smith and Jigba and St. Brown are staring you in the face. Which one are you going with?
Real quick, Balky, looks like the chat saying the board's too small. Can you make that a little bigger?
Yes, I absolutely can. Thank you, Terp. I will make that bigger right now.
And I'm also blind, so I can't see literally anything. That's not a bad thing every once in a while.
Right. Okay. Well, I went the wrong way on that one. I'm sorry.
Went the wrong way there. It's first time ever. It's your first show ever. I get it.
Yeah, no, I'm ironing out the kinks here tonight. This should be how is that good? Should I get a little bigger?
I'd say one more.
One more? You got it.
Yeah.
I'll make it one more, and then we'll get this going. So Terp, like I was saying, like in the first round, I mean, obviously Fred Huang made the decision here to go with Smith and Jigba over St. Brown. But I do think that there are people out there making the opposite choice. How do you fall in on this?
I mean, if I had a gun to my head, it's probably St. Brown by a little bit. I think I saw a good tweet the other day by Brian Drake. It's not that anybody doesn't like JSN, but everything worked out perfectly last year for Seattle. I said this last night. Shaheed, Horton, Barner, Kupp, Arroyo, a running back room. That's a question. There's a lot of guys. You have a new OC, and this is going to bring back bad flashbacks, but do we know this OC is just going to automatically force feed JSN the ball? We don't. We thought the same thing happened with what happened last year with the Eagles when Kevin Patullo. We thought that they were just going to do exactly what they did the year before when they won the Super Bowl and everything was going to be great, and it was a disaster. So when it comes to JSN, I love the player, love everything about him, but I could see a little bit of a drop off. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a bust or anything like that, but St. Brown's is to me as perfect as you're going to find safe wise and still has that ceiling in the first round after the top four.
The second round now in the books, Gutierrez going with Chase Brown. So he starts off running back with JT and CB. CD Lamb goes to Jay Flake here, or Jay Flake, I beg your pardon, at the 201 tonight. Barkley goes to Drew Davenport. He goes with Cook. Cook Barkley start one of two teams to go with running back to kick things off. Nolan Crudell ends up drafting Justin Jefferson to go with Christian McCaffrey. Devon Achane, the exciting, explosive running back on the opposite of exciting and explosive offense in Miami, goes to Justin Boone to go with Brock Bowers, potentially the number one tight end and number one running back there. Trey McBride goes to the 206 tonight. Jeremiah Turner takes him there, followed by Derrick Henry to the guru John Hansen, Kenneth Walker to Fred Huang, and then we see Malik Neighbors at the 209 to Dwain McFarland. Colston Loveland, who went ahead of Trey McBride in PVJ number 4 last night, Terp, falls to the 210. AJ Brown at the 211 to Dan Williamson, and Parenzuela and Hanstein make Tyler Warren a second-round pick. Lot to unpack here, Terp, but let's get into it right away. Malik Neighbors at the 209. He is rising faster than I would have thought. What do you make of Neighbors as now?
We really talked about this last night, how he can get to the 1-2 turn. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad pick. I mean, it's not one I'm going to make, but I see why people are doing it. I mean, especially in a contest like this, you're going for a win, and Malik Neighbors healthy, 100%. Is it with Puka, with Nico Collins? What can you say negative about that? So all in all, like, is he reaching? Probably yes. But at the end of the day, Dwayne's one of the smartest people in this industry. He knows what he's doing. He knows he's going for the win. He's not worried about, the socks or everything, all the other cool things that you're going to get from 3rd to 11th. So from that perspective, I think he's, fine. There's been a lot of Tyler Warren going ahead of Drake London. Pickens falling a little bit. Cam Scatteraboo, all positive so far. He's getting moved up. This is definitely a different draft than we've seen so far. Loveland falling after McBride, which has been pretty popular so far in these, but clearly not in this one. So overall, I mean, Jonathan Taylor falling to 12. Hampton getting up in there, up in the first round. McCaffrey sliding a little bit, from where he's going. People are just petrified right now of the 49ers, which we'll talk about here soon.
Yeah.
It's definitely been a wild first 3 rounds so far.
So, Neighbors, I guess, not surprising because, as you mentioned, we were talking about the possibility of this last night. I was talking about the possibility of this even last week on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. What I did not see happening tonight was Tyler Warren making an ascent all the way up to the 212. Now, normally in the FFPC best ball tournament, the format that most closely resembles the Pros versus Joes, he is going at the 308 on average. The highest he's gone over the last 3 days has been 207. So he has crept up into the second round before as tight end 4. How do I know this? From the great work that Darren Armani puts together at Fantasy Mojo, fantasymojo.com, at Fantasy Mojo on X, the godfather of the Pros versus Joes challenge. Anytime we cite ADP on this, it's all due to his work at Fantasy Mojo. So Tyler Warren creeping up at the 212. Terp, I don't know if I necessarily see this as sort of like an ascent that is built to last for the remainder of draft season. I think this is one of the outliers. I don't normally envision in the top 24 picks, even in FFPC tight end premium scoring, 4 tight ends going off the board.
I'm not out on Tyler Warren. I'll have some. I'll probably be even with the field, but the Colts worry me. I've said this before on a couple shows we've done. Everybody is automatically saying it's going to be Tyler Warren moving up. I get it. Fine. It makes sense. He had a good year with Daniel Jones and then kind of fell off without Daniel Jones. It makes sense. Josh Downs is the hot name who's moving up draft boards. But kind of aren't they in the same? Like, I know people are saying Josh Downs is going to play on the outside, but is he? Are you sure? I know they got nobody on the outside, but like, are we sure that's going to work? And what happens if the whole dynamic of Keenan Allen gets thrown in there? If that, rumors come through, don't all 3 of them kind of sit in the same area where they should be good at? And they still don't have anybody on the outside. Alec Pierce should be back. I get it. But like, we don't know that much about Alec Pierce. Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be 100%? Is it going to take some ramp up time? They don't have another guy. So it's like, I feel like, and Daniel Jones is coming off a major injury. Like, we don't know that he can come back and he's not going to look like Kirk Cousins did. It could be a disaster. And Jonathan Taylor is the one that's starting to fall because of it. Again, well, do I have a lot of Downs? Yes. Do I have a lot of Warren? Yes. But as we get closer to like, late gorillas and main event season, I don't know if I'll be on them. And it's not because I don't like the player. The situation to me is just very, very scary. And when it's scary and all those guys could be in the same area, I'm probably out. I would have took Drake London there. I would have took Breece Hall, Nico Collins, probably a couple other guys over Warren. And I just think tight end's so deep this year that to me, there's not that much of a difference between Tyler Warren and guys who are going, 4, 5, 6 rounds later.
I think he's one of those polarizing tight ends because some people will put him on that upper echelon of it and make it a big 4 at tight end this season.
They're desperately trying to find that 4th guy, and that's fine. I get it. I mean, with FFPC scoring, you need to find, a tight end that you can't fall behind the 8 ball when it comes to that position, because there's people drafting 2, 3 of them, and if they're destroying you at the position, you're in trouble weekly. And, when you're going for the, big prize at the end, you got to have somebody that puts up, a solid number. So they're trying to find that 4th guy. I just don't know if Tyler Warren's going to be that guy. I mean, is he going to be okay? Is he going to be serviceable? But does he have that ceiling that you're looking for in the second round? I don't think so.
We have a question on the YouTube chat right now. Comes to us from Alexander Vajda 7308. How do people feel about taking Christian McCaffrey over Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jackson Smith-Njigba? Well, that didn't happen tonight, although it has happened in Pros versus Joes so far. Terp, how do you weigh that in? For me personally, I'm taking St. Brown. I'm taking Smith-Njigba. Why? Because I'm a weak man, and weak men look for that safety, that comfort in that first round. However, I do recognize the possibility that McCaffrey could have another bonkers season. I thought it would have been interesting had Drew Davenport from Footballguys gotten an earlier pick. He was picking 10th tonight, but the Kings Classic at the FF Expo in Canton this past weekend, or the weekend before, I should say, he took McCaffrey at 4th overall. So I think it would have been compelling to see what he would have done.
He would have definitely taken Christian McCaffrey there. I mean, it's almost impossible not to. Like, we all know the 49ers are pretty much going to put him in a bubble wrap, as we've talked about already. A lot of injuries, a lot of, major, minor, whatever you want to call it to some of these guys. Christian McCaffrey is their offense. Mm-hmm. Whether he breaks down or not, hey, we can all say, oh, yeah, it's going to happen. And you might be right. You might take your victory lap. But if you're wrong, you're in big trouble, because we all know even a bad Christian McCaffrey game is 17, 18 points.
Right.
But that ceiling, we've seen it. And if you're getting that guy 10th, 11th, 12th in the first round, and let's just say, like, in the FFPC, we all know about the free look. What if he clunks the first game? And people are like, "Oh, I'm right. I'm just not taking it." Where's Christian McCaffrey going to fall? I love that as we get closer to the drafts at the beginning, when you start seeing that dynamic get thrown in there. Because now you got 2 games before a lot of drafts, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We are welcoming on our first guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We were just talking about not the player he took at 10, but the player he took at the Kings Classic in Canton a couple of weeks ago. He is having his work over at footballguys.com. You can listen to the Auction Brief podcast anywhere you get podcasts. He is the inventor of par sheets, beg your pardon. He is a 3-time Kings Classic auction champ. And of course, because he's been a practicing attorney for 2.5 decades, it's where I'm getting all my Rashee Rice and Josh Jacobs offseason analysis. At Drew Davenport FF on the X, please welcome aboard Mr. Drew Davenport. Drew, good evening.
What's up, fellas? How you doing?
What's up, Drew?
We're doing good. We're excited to have you on tonight. Yeah, I mentioned your Kings Classic squad taking McCaffrey at 104. You would have loved that. You just missed him by 1 pick tonight, settling for James Cook instead.
I thought I was going to – I'm like, am I going to get Christian McCaffrey at this point? Like, I don't really want to do that again. I mean, but hey, I did that a little bit in the Kings Classic just because I'm just not that great of a snake drafter. And so I told myself I got to change up what I do a little bit. It's just not my forte. Auctions are my thing. I don't do a lot of snakes. So I said, let me switch things up a little bit. And let me go for it here, because it's a 14-teamer. If you have a guy like that who makes a difference like that, then I think you got to go for it. That's just, I threw caution to the wind. I'd normally be a Puka guy there. In the last 5 years, I'd take Puka there, but this time I went for CMC.
Yeah, and I totally get it. Tonight you take James Cook in the first round. I saw actually a blurb from Footballguys newsletter a couple of days ago that Cook is actually, and the Bills running backs in general, catching more passes than perhaps they had been working on at this time last year in training camp. Man, if James Cook is able to get over that 40 catch mark, or maybe gets to 50, 60 catches this year, Drew, you could be sitting pretty with him at 110 tonight.
Boy, I sure hope so. And it's been one of the enduring mysteries of the Buffalo Bills offense, why they don't want to throw the ball to him more. He's just such an explosive player, and he does his work on the ground. But, man, if you get him into a reasonable spot, like you said, with that amount of catches, boy, it's going to be a lot of fun. I hope they do that. I hope that's not just preseason coach speak, but, we'll see. That's what I'm banking on. This format is going to reward, swinging a little bit more for upside. So I'm hoping that's what happens with Cook.
The last 2 picks you have made, well, quite frankly, Drew, the last 3 picks you've made have been 3 of my favorites so far this year. Barkley at the 203, Olave at the 310, and then you get my guy, Jalen Waddle at the 403. Not my guy. He's everybody's guy. You're on the clock right now at 5:10. Tell us what's going through your mind.
Yeah, right now, because I'm so balanced, the world is my oyster here, because I'm not thinking about a quarterback quite yet. I'm not that excited about the value there. So it's really going to be running back or wide receiver. Devontae Adams has shown up on the top of the board, but I'm just not that interested. The guy that I'm staring at here is Christian Watson, just because I've got 2 receivers I like already, and Watson gives me that nuclear kind of upside. That
again, my language.
Yeah, it's just that upside that I feel like as a wide receiver 3, sign me up. That's exactly how I want Watson. So that's going to be my pick here. A lot of times I will go safer there and be like, okay, a running back here makes sense to back. Nah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that tonight. We're going to go all upside tonight.
The right side, or beg your pardon, the left side of the board, with the exception of Turner and Boone, a lot of purple over there, a lot of tight ends here, Drew. Are you thinking, when it comes back to you, and you'll be on the clock here in a couple of picks, are there any tight ends that you're thinking about here, or are you more focused on other positions in the 6th round?
I like Laporta here. If he makes it back to me, it's going to be hard for me to turn him down here. But I'm not going to force it. The rest of the guys are pretty similar for me. Some of the guys I really liked are already gone. So Laporta's in my head. I'm also looking at a couple wide receivers that I think can still go crazy here. But boy, oh boy, Travion Henderson sitting there might be one of those picks where I'm not doing that. Yeah, Laporta went right ahead of me. So, hey, took that out of. Yeah, I kind of figured that might happen. The other thing I'm looking at here is Drake May, because I think there's a big difference between May and the rest of these guys. But it's so easy to cobble together some upside late in this draft at quarterback that I just don't know that I want to go for May here, even though everything in my being is like 6th round, just take him. I really. The Travion Henderson thing, I'm not a big Henderson guy. I'm just going to be honest with you. And Devontae Adams shouldn't be still out there either. So as a wide receiver 4, God, that looks really fun. But I think I'm going Henderson here just because if I'm wrong about, I believe Stevenson's not going anywhere. But if I'm a little bit wrong about Henderson and he gets a little bit better, again, nuclear upside here.
Yeah.
Love it as my RB3. That's what I'm doing here. I'm going with Henderson.
Love that pick.
Yeah, I think that, and you're getting about 8 picks of value, so about 2/3 of a round of a value here, Drew. And you talk about the upside. If what if, and I've been saying this, basically since the end of last season, what if Henderson just wasn't getting playing time because Vrabel and McDaniels just don't like playing rookies, right? That's a possibility. And if that comes to fruition, where that split between him and Stevenson this year is in favor of Henderson, say like 70-30 or 75-25. I mean, you are talking about the potential for being a top 5 running back that you're getting here in the 6th round. So the upside, the ceiling there is definitely enormous. And the other added benefit here, Drew, and I know you said you're not that good of a snake drafter, but you have offered your team with the first 6 picks, you've offered a lot of balance here. 3 running backs, 3 receivers. If the value falls to you at quarterback, tight end, or quite frankly, either of those other positions, you're going to be able to snatch it up.
Yeah, and that's how I like to set up my drafts. And so many times in a snake, I feel like I'm off balance. Like, this is a really strong room. I mean, I don't need to read the names here for you guys to know this is a strong room.
Very strong.
And I feel off balance in a room like this sometimes because I feel like, especially on the end where I'm drafting, I was a little bit worried about being behind the runs tonight, but everything's kind of just clicked into place a little bit. I wanted, I wanted Egbuka earlier. He went 1 pick before me. But in general, it's fallen pretty well, and I'm pleased so far. Let's see if I can screw it up.
I love the consolation of Jalen Waddle instead of Egbuka too. I think
I do too.
That's a can't miss a spot there when you're staring both of those guys in the face. Excuse me, Drew. Tell us about the Auction Brief podcast. I think it's something that a lot of people do listen to, but definitely more people should be checking out.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. I just got done with night 2 of the Salary Cap Summit. It's something I started last summer that I'm bringing back this summer because we got such a big response. We're doing 2 live auctions on Sunday and Monday night. We just finished that second one where I was live commentating while the auctions were going on. And then tomorrow night we have an auction panel. That's all from the Auction Brief. It's kind of sprung out of that. So you can find the Auction Brief anywhere you find podcasts. And we talk about auctions almost exclusively on my solo shows. Now I have guests on, and those guests, we talk about everything. But on my solo shows, I'm mostly going to be auction talk. And I don't think that there are many podcasts out there. I think there's 1 or 2 other ones floating out there that do it. And we just need more of it. I'm not saying snake is bad. I'm not saying auction's better. I'm just saying we need more of it. So.
And you're doing yeoman's work there, obviously getting that done too. And what do you call that? Like this sort of side pie, like conversations with Drew, or what is it?
Discussions with Drew.
Discussions with Drew. I knew there was an alliteration there, and I was.
I did.
But
I'm in love with alliteration.
It's been fantastic too with all the guests that you've been bringing on there. So that's really good as well. And I will say too, the stuff, the legal stuff that you offer on your X feed and obviously on the Auction Brief has been fantastic. I know you've been at the center. I wouldn't say the center, but you have been my go-to guy, as I think you are the go-to guy for many people following up on this Josh Jacobs stuff. Have you sort of changed the way that you're looking at this at all since it happened? I mean, this was going back to late May now. We're here in early August. What are your feelings on Jacobs right now, who, by the way, tonight in this draft goes at the 309 to Nolan Cordell?
Yeah, I think that I keep telling people, I'm guessing that the reason Jacobs keeps going late is people are still concerned about him. And that's a valid, reaction. Because what I've said all along is I think he's going to be okay. but I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And people, what the Rashee Rice thing came out of nowhere because he takes his deal and he was working on diversion behind the scenes. Now, I will say, I put that out there as a possibility. Like there could be discussions going on that we don't know about. And that's what happened with Rice. But I was a little bit blindsided. And so Jacobs, it could be the same thing. We could have discussions going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. There could be evidence that's being presented that we're never going to know what they're putting out there. So I would just say this, that I think he's going to be okay. But there is a non-zero chance that we wake up sometime in the next 3 weeks and he's either suspended by the NFL for a few games or he has charges filed against him. We just don't know. There is an X factor there that I'm guessing that's why everyone has the problem at this point of, because his ADP wouldn't be where it is if he didn't have these troubles hanging over his head.
Where do you think it would be?
He'd easily be mid to end of second round. I know he's getting a little bit older. I know there's concerns here, but gosh, they love to stuff the ball in at the goal line.
Yes, they do.
And it's just he wouldn't be going where he's going. I think he's a second round pick, and I took him at the end of the second in the Kings Classic because it's got to be the legal stuff. And again, I was swinging for the fences with McCaffrey and Jacobs back to back there,
Right.
hoping to have my rocks there.
The Jacobs thing, the Rice thing, I think those are the two big ones. Are there any other legal situations in the NFL, Drew, that you've been following that may or may not be affecting the way that you're drafting or purchasing players in salary cap leagues this drafting season?
There isn't really many offensive. There's a couple defensive players. I mean, we had the Terrion Arnold situation, but there's just not a lot of interest in me breaking that stuff down. The most interesting case I've been dealing with lately is Tony Romo. So frankly, no, there's not a lot of interest out there right now.
There's a lot of interest in the auction brief, which you can listen to anywhere you get your podcast. You can connect with Drew on X at Drew Davenport FF, and of course check out all of his work at footballguys.com. Drew, keep up the great work.
Thanks, guys.
Keep doing all that salary cap analysis, because I think that, as you said, there needs to be more of it. But you're sort of the go-to for auctions, and you're the go-to for legal stuff right now. So we appreciate all the work you're doing.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. Thank you for putting that out there. And I just want to say, Justin Boone, I have a interview scheduled with him tomorrow, and we're going to have a conversation about how he just took Jalen Hurts from me. So we're going to break that down.
Well, Drew, make a walk-off pick here. Likely just goes to Crudell. You're on the clock here at 7:10. And Hurts just got sniped by Justin Boone.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I'm not in love with the receivers right now. I think they're going to be there. I'm not in love with the running backs. I don't really want to take Ramondre Stevenson when I have Henderson. I don't love anything right now. So Jalen Hurts, I'd pinned my hopes on Jalen Hurts. I tell you what, I'm going to do something a little unconventional. I'm going to go for Jonathan Brooks here at the end of the seventh.
All right.
So shoot for the moon.
He's I mean, that's the theme tonight. That's what we're doing. So
we're always shooting for the moon when we have the opportunity to talk with auction and legal luminary in the fantasy football space, Drew Davenport at Drew Davenport FF. Drew, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your draft. Good luck, man.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me.
See you, Drew.
That is Drew Davenport from footballguys.com, drafting from the 10 hole tonight. What do you make of the Brooks pick, Terp, after he gets Cook, Barkley, and Henderson, another upside running back in Jonathan?
To be honest with you, through 7 rounds, it might be the best team that I've seen drafted in Pros versus Joes.
You're being awfully hyperbolic. You said this about Derek Brown's team from Fantasy Pros.
It's better than Derek Brown's team.
Okay, all right. So legit.
Through 7 rounds, a lot of things can change, but right. What's not to like about what he did? James Cook, Barkley, we talk about that. Olave, Waddle, and Watson. All potential, big scores there. Travion Henderson, I probably would have taken in a managed league. I would not have taken him, but in this type of league, you're going for it all. And if he turns out to be the guy with Barkley, with Cook, and now adding Brooks, I don't see any downside. What is it? Like in this spot, he said it perfectly. Like he wanted Hurts. I don't know if he was considering likely, but after that, like you look at some of these guys like Dak, does it fit? Kelsey and Stevenson, you're not really going to do that. That doesn't really make sense for the build. There's obviously some other guys here that are going to come up that you like, but I feel like Brooks is a perfect pick there. It's a really good draft through 7 rounds.
We'll see what Drew does too, because he has the opportunity for some stacking with Tyler Shuck later on with Olave at the 310, with Jordan Love later on with Christian Watson at the 510. So he's got definitely some openings at quarterback that he can deal with, not now, but later on in the draft. We only have 9 quarterbacks off the board right now.
The run's coming, you know that.
Right. I mentioned this earlier. The FFPC Pros versus Joe's most closely resembles the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, which features a $400,000 grand prize this year. It was $300K last year. It's up to $400,000 this year. You can enter it right now for $125 at myffpc.com. Live drafts and slow drafts going on right now tonight. We'll probably have live drafts going till 1 a.m. And then slow drafts as they fill up. myffpc.com is where to go. That's myffpc.com. Terp, I'd love to read an X post that came across my feed about 5 hours ago. I was about to text you and be like, you know what? I'm going to take the night off, but my buddy Dan Williamson was in here, and that's the X post. It's from you at Dave Terp. I thought about taking the night off, but then I saw Overhyped Sleeper was drafting and couldn't miss the chance to see what is going to cook up. Well, let's go to the chef himself. In the kitchen right now at the 2 spot is the Overhyped Sleeper himself. You know him from Player Profiler, hosting the Dominator podcast. He is Dan Williamson. Dan, how's it going, man, tonight?
Hey, what's up, guys? Good to see you,
man.
Terp, I had to make you work, man. You were taking the night off. I'm like, I can't.
It's been a long Pros versus Joe so far. Farrell missing yesterday. I was like, maybe I'll just have Jake or Aiden step in for me. And then I saw the I had you in here, I had Drew in here, I had Dwain in here, mostly you, but I can't miss that. I can't miss and so far you haven't really put me in a position where I want to rip your team. I have a question for you. We'll get there, but so far I like what you've done.
Oh, that's good. It's a much older team than what I usually draft, but that's the way it's kind of coming to me. So we're doing what we got to do. And I was very disappointed, Drew, just taking Brock Purdy there, who would have fit my team so well.
What up? Well, let's talk about your team that you've drafted here so far tonight. Bijan Robinson at the 102. You get A.J. Brown here at the 211. I feel like he's been slipping a little bit in drafts, but you still have full faith in the brand new New England Patriot, Dan.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was the original A.J. Brown 101 way back when he was a sophomore. So, that's been my tagline for years. And, hey, if I can get him at the 211 with a new team and a great quarterback, and, A.J. Brown just needs to get it shaken up and, get a new surroundings. And, he tends to get bored. He tends to get cranky. And, he's just got to have something new around him. And he's got that this year. So I'm excited.
I'm excited for this 302 pick that you made right after that and getting Jeremiah Love. I think what I've been thinking about this lately over the last week or so, Dan, is we could look back on Love being drafted in the 3rd round of FFPC drafts. We could look back on that in December and look at what he's been doing this year and be like, why was this guy not being picked in the 1st round? And not only is he not being picked in the 1st round, he's falling to the 3rd. How excited were you? How much thinking did you put into that pick? Or were you just like, hey, look, if Love is there in the 3rd, I have to grab him?
I mean, I was happy to grab him there. I probably would have taken Drake London if he had fallen to me. But I knew when I was making my A.J. Brown pick that I was probably waving goodbye to Drake London. And once again, I'm gravely disappointed by my fellow drafters taking the quarterback I wanted just ahead of me.
Dan, you're on the clock right now. You have a fairly balanced team, 2 running backs, 3 receivers, a quarterback, and a tight end. We are now at the 8-11. May, Robinson, Love in the backfield, Brown, Wilson, Evans split out wide, and then George Kittle on the line as your tight end. You got 30 seconds here. Take us through your thought process on your 8-11 pick.
Yeah, I think I don't really see a compelling value anywhere right now. And I know that Team 1 has 2 tight ends already, but still, I think I'm going to take Dallas Goedert because I think he's going to pair pretty well with George Kittle.
He's going to try to make me happy. I knew why you were popping on here at this perfect time. Take my Eagle.
And
butter me up a little bit.
It's interesting because Dan, you now join Parenzuela and Hanstein at the one spot as the only two teams with tight ends. There's kind of a nice little warm fuzziness about that, where you don't have to worry about that position when seemingly 10 other teams now have to be concerned with it.
Right, exactly. And I had one in my hip pocket that I still liked, even if somebody had taken Goddard from me. So I'm happy. I feel like
would you take that guy here? Would you take the third? Would you take a third tight end? You are the tight end whisperer, so like my question is
so you should be getting him late. Terp, he's getting him late since he's the tight end whisperer.
You are the tight end whisperer. I do have questions about George Kittle though.
Yeah.
Whenever you get done your pick here, I want to ask you about George Kittle because he's out of all your picks, he's the one that I probably have the biggest questions on. So after your pick here, I would love to know where your thoughts are with the obviously coming back from the injury. Obviously, it's a tough time to be a 49ers receiver or skill position player with the injuries. So
the host of the Player Profiler Dominator podcast, Dan Williamson, joining us right now, about to make his pick at the 9:02. Drake May as his signal caller. He's got Bijan Robinson and Jeremiah Love making up his backfield. A trio of receivers, A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Mike Evans, and now back-to-back tight end picks with Kittle and Goddard. Dan, tell us what you're thinking at this 9:02 selection.
Well, I'm thinking I don't love the running backs here. I don't really love the quarterbacks here. And I don't really love the wide receivers here. So we're just going to go ahead and triple up on tight end. What the hell?
I was going to guess the name before you put it out there.
I love it. I absolutely love it. 3 straight tight ends. Dan, if you're, and I know you're not in this situation because you're the guy taking the 3 tight ends, but have you ever been in an FFPC draft where you see somebody do this and you only have 1 tight end or perhaps no tight ends? What does this sort of do for you when you see another team do this?
Well, usually for me, it does nothing because I am very comfortable taking tight ends at the end of the drafts too. So, but I will say that tends to be more in redraft. When you're talking best ball, I think it's a little bit more important to get some guys you can actually count on. 3 in a row is unusual for me, but yeah, I'm hoping this puts some pressure on some of the other drafters to start cranking out a little bit of purple and drop some guys down to me.
I like doing this in best ball. I would never do it, obviously, in redraft or gorilla or anything like that, just because, like you said, there's the receivers here kind of running backs are kind of I think receivers deeper, especially in best ball, and then quarterbacks, I feel like you'll have options, to get to 2 more guys probably. But the tight ends, or at least in my opinion, there's a drop offs coming here to the next tier, and I think it's a big drop off after maybe 1 or 2 other guys coming up. Yeah, there's a lot of guys late that I know you like and I also like, but I think this tier right here is a really, really good tier. The Goddards, the Kincaids, the Andrews, the Kincaids, even Kelsey in some regards. Mm-hmm. I really, really like that tier this year. I like that tier more than the Fannin, Kraft, Pitts tier, Laporta tier.
Terp, what was the issue you had with Kittle, with Dan taking him?
My only question with Kittle is obviously like he's a guy that most people wrote off early in the draft process. Now everybody's starting to move him up. Obviously, he's a freak of nature, and he's a guy that can win you a league himself. We all have seen it before with, sprints where George Kittle gets you there and he's the guy you got to own. But obviously the injury risk is a big, big worry, and he's coming off a big injury. Does that worry you at all? Is that more of a best ball pick, or is that something you make it definitely in a redraft type of situation?
Yeah, I'd make it in a redraft situation too. The way I look at it is this is a discount on Kittle that, we haven't seen, since really he burst onto the scene. And we're getting it on injury discount. The dichotomy of Kittle is, this guy like heals like Wolverine, but he also, is made out of glass, so he gets injured so easily. You don't know what you're getting. But this is one where you got to push your chips in. And Kittle's a push your chips in type player, especially paired up with Mike Evans. 2 old guys who've definitely had their injury issues, but I'm hoping, pretty much at least every week one of them is pumping out a really high score. So if that's the case, I'm probably going to be okay.
Dan, the pick that you made at 6'11", Drake May, 4th quarterback off the board, would you have still chosen May if you would not have been able to get A.J. Brown in the 2nd round?
I think he was, that was a pretty good spot for May, no matter what. I would have considered maybe Marvin Harrison there. I've been out on Marvin Harrison pretty much all draft season, but I'm starting to climb back in a little bit against my better judgment, probably. So I wasn't too disappointed when Team One took him and forced me a different way. But I think Drake May makes a lot of sense there, just because we're coming around the 6-7 turn. The quarterbacks were really going to start flying off the board. Probably I would not have gotten to push him around to the 702 since the Team One took a quarterback as well. I'm sure they would have probably taken May, given the chance. So I feel pretty good about where we're sitting there.
I want to get into sort of draft philosophy and the way that you handle training camp news, Dan. I think this is really important this time of year. We've been craving football. We finally get real football back this week with the Hall of Fame game. But with training camps opening last week, there's a lot of stuff flying around from coaches, from players, from beat writers. And I think we are desperate as fantasy players to be able to react to that news, but react to it properly and with the proper amount of force. You don't want to overreact to anything, but you also don't want to underreact to anything. You are a longtime high-stakes player. I'm curious as to how you are handling the news that's coming out right now, and especially the stuff that the beat writers are saying about what these offenses are going to be trying to do in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, what you don't want to do is be reacting to every single play and practice, or this player made a big catch or this player dropped a ball, and everybody's out there on X just, oh my gosh, moving way up the ranks, moving way down the ranks, and it's just, to me, you need to just kind of sit back and let that stuff kind of come at you for a while, and just kind of read the drumbeat that's going on around each player. If you're trying to read into every single training camp rep, you're gonna drive yourself nuts, for one thing.
And you're going to lose a lot of money. That's about what it is.
It's exactly it. So you want to kind of pull back, listen to the drum beats. What I listen to what the beats say, but I really listen to what the coaches say. I mean, I know coaches will lie too, but the coach is your best chance of getting a good read on the situation. And sometimes it's not just what he says, but how he says it. Sometimes they're damning players with faint praise, going, well, he's doing pretty good at this particular skill, but he's a rookie, he's got a lot to work on, and people grab onto that. Well, he's doing pretty good at whatever it happens to be, and they don't look at the rest of the quote. And for the most part, people are grabbing quick blurbs off of Twitter. They're not really. They're not getting the context. I like to get a little bit deeper, go back to the source, listen to what the coach said, in the interview, and find out, what does he really think about this player? Because a lot of times, when you dig in, you find out that, what's coming up in that blurb isn't really exactly, what the coach thinks about the player.
Dan, if you, let me frame this in a way that, let's just assume for the sake of argument, there was a running back that you liked at the 902 or a wide receiver you liked at the 902. Would you, would you have been okay with Kittle and Goddard as your only two tight ends in this, or would you have still wanted to add at least a third one onto this team?
Oh yeah, with Kittle there, I mean, I think a third tight end is an absolute necessity. He's not one of those guys that you can count on, but you don't have to spend a lot to get that third tight end. You can move down the board a good ways and still get a pretty good one. Let's see. I'm going to stick with my older and injury-prone ways here. And
J.K. Dobbins. Here we go. I love it. The 40th running back off the board. He is your number 3 running back. But, Dan, I do think there is a lot to be said about, what he was able to do last year for Denver, and sort of like them deciding to bring him back again this year, despite Harvey, and despite drafting Jonah Coleman. Dobbins might be in for a bigger workload than some other people are thinking.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think he's probably going to be the main workhorse of this offense. I think a lot of the touchdowns are likely to go his way as long as he stays healthy. Sean Payton made it pretty clear that he was, he was very happy with Dobbins, wanted him back pretty bad. And let's see.
Dan's back on the clock right now after Parenzuela and Hanstein have taken Baker Mayfield and Matthew Golden. Dan now on the clock, 50 seconds to go. We are starting the second half of the draft, motoring right along here tonight. Dan, what are you thinking? Tell us your thought process and who you are considering here at 11:02.
Yeah, it's time to hit quarterback, and one of my favorite players that drops pretty much every draft, Jared Goff. I mean, I just don't understand. He plays in a dome. He's got a coach that loves to have him throwing the ball. Jahmyr Gibbs is holding out right now. Yeah, so
holding in.
Yeah, holding in. Excuse me. Yes, pardon my French.
But no, I think people just they let Goff slip because there's not a lot of the rushing numbers, right? Are not there.
He's not sexy, but.
He's not sexy, but to your point, dome, an offense that I think gets underrated. Doesn't matter if they're up by 2 points or 42 points. They keep their foot on the gas the whole time. He's got great weapons around him. And, oh, by the way, a fourth place schedule for Detroit this year. Doesn't matter.
Their defense stinks.
Their defense stinks, and it doesn't even matter if they're killing the other team. They're still going to be putting up 30, 40, 50 points, which is great about getting the Lions in 2026.
Yeah, exactly. You want to have as many players from high-powered offenses as you can have, and for the most part, that's what I've tried to do here. Jeremiah Love maybe doesn't fit as much. Garrett Wilson maybe doesn't fit as much, but they're going to have huge shape pieces of a pie of maybe a lesser offense. But again, that piece of pie should be really, really large as long as they stay healthy.
When it comes to Jeremiah Love versus Breece Hall, was it even a question?
Not for me, no.
Are you out on Breece Hall or just?
No, I'm not necessarily out on Breece Hall, but I would just much rather have Jeremiah Love because here's the thing. They took him third overall. That to me smelled like an owner pick rather than a GM pick. And, I think if that's the case, the owner is going to want to see his investment play. He wants to be selling jerseys because there's not a whole lot else he can do right now while they're rebuilding.
Until they get that
he's the guy who's going to sell the jerseys, so they're going to have him out there. I'm sure Tyler Algier will spell him some, but, Love is going to get plenty of chances. He's the best weapon in the passing game. I think he's he's going to get a lot of targets and, plenty of rushes as well.
Dan, I want to talk a little bit about what you're doing for Player Profiler right now. Tomorrow is the long-awaited return. Since last season, we've been waiting for you, for Nelson Sousa, for Matt Modica, for Chris Vaccaro to make the Fantasy Empire return to the world of podcasts. You guys are making it happen tomorrow afternoon, right?
Yeah, actually tomorrow morning. We're going on at 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 Central. We're going to be, talking it up. We all decided that, we needed to fire our scheduling managers because, we just couldn't seem to get our act together all at the same time. Vaccaro's going on vacation, then I'm going on vacation. Nelson's got something going on, so it's always something. But mostly me and Vaccaro, though. We kind of had back-to-back vacations with not a lot of time between, so we just decided to push it off. But
we're
ready to hit it hard now.
Dan, where did you go this year?
I was just up in Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. I was supposed to go more on the Minnesota-Canadian border on a canoe trip, but apparently the whole park was on fire, so couldn't go there. So
not safe. Not safe to canoe in a fire. That's something they taught me back in Boy Scouts.
It's does not come highly recommended. So we ended up going about 250 miles north of the Minnesota-Canada border. So we're way up there. Not quite land of the midnight sun, but boy, it got dark late. Yeah,
I can imagine. The Fantasy Empire podcast returns tomorrow. Are you guys going weekly then now throughout the season?
Yeah, we'll definitely be going weekly. Scattering some drafts as well during drafting season. And the Dominator will continue unabated. I've got Scott Pianowski coming on Thursday, so we'll have that one rolling as well. And I'll continue to add guests there and probably do about one of those a week now that the Empire is really rolling. So yeah, a lot of content coming up, and I'm excited about it. I mean, this is the time of year that really get the juices flowing.
For sure. For that content and to keep up to date on all the content Dan is producing at Overhyped Sleeper, drop the final E off Sleeper, and you can find him on X there. You can find him in a lot of FFPC draft rooms. Obviously, Dan, we wish you nothing but the best of luck for Pros versus Joes, as well as all your leagues this year. And I'm sure I'll see you in Las Vegas at Planet Hollywood again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so looking forward to that. Definitely my favorite week of the year. So we'll see you guys there, and thanks for having me on.
You got it. Dan Williamson, the Overhyped Sleeper from Player Profiler, host of the Dominator podcast, as well as a co-host of the Fantasy Empire podcast. Let's face it, he kind of he steers the wheel on that show. Really
1,000, but he keeps them all together.
Yes, exactly. So good stuff there from Dan Williamson tonight as he makes a few picks on air. You love to see it for sure. The chat room, by the way, is on fire tonight. Appreciate all the comments there. Keep them coming. If there's anything, sometimes when I'm talking to guests or whatever, I miss something in the chat. Or I missed something in the draft. If there's something that you want pointed out, definitely do that in there. I want to remind everybody, too, the Fantasy Empire podcast, when that comes out tomorrow, it is really a podcast dedicated to high-stakes fantasy football. And one of the things that they do talk about on there throughout the season is the FFPC main event, one of two contests that the FFPC has for $1 million grand prize. Remember, if you are joining that now, we had a live main event go off tonight. I think we got a live one scheduled for tomorrow. Basically, live main events every single night until the start of the season. And we have slow drafts going on for probably at least the next 3 or 4 weeks as well. MyFFPC.com is where to go for that. And once you register your first team, you are eligible for a $600 discount for every main event team you purchase after that, which is a fantastic deal. Jump in the $6.5 million prize pool right now and take your shot at $1 million with the FFPC main event at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. The latest pick we have off the board is Dwain McFarland from FantasyLife, taking Kenyon Sadiq as his number 2 tight end behind Tucker Kraft. I was big on Sadiq in drafting prior to the NFL draft this year, Terp. I've cooled on him a little bit now that I know he's on the Jets, but I still think there is some upside there with improved quarterback play and the fact that he might be the number 2 option in New York. I'm definitely still intrigued with Kenyon Sadiq. He goes as the tight end 21 tonight.
I'm intrigued with the talent too. I mean, looking at where I wanted him to be drafted, it wasn't the Jets, but same story as, bad team, should want to develop rookies, get, Cooper and Sadiq out there, see what they can do. Obviously they're in the quarterback, carousel, just like Arizona. So we'll see there. But at the end of the season, they should be out there. They should be, starting to get familiar with the game, especially tight end positions, a really hard position to learn as a rookie, obviously with blocking and all that stuff. So Sadiq obviously was a little banged up early, but he seems to be healthy right now. Getting good reviews in camp, just a talented player. So I like him too. Again, are you banking a starting position on him? In best ball, I love him a lot. He's a great backup tight end if you have one of the elite guys, or like if you're in a 3 tight end build, it makes a ton of sense to have him because, it might not work right now, but week 5, week 6, week 7, when he starts hitting his stride, and if, the Jets are just a little bit better than people think they're going to be, that just sets up Sadiq for a really solid season.
The comment from Theo Greminger, who just drafted last night. By the way, check out Theo's stream on the RotoWire YouTube feed as well as the podcast feed. You can watch and listen to his stream of drafting this Pros versus Joe's team from last night, which was great. He says Dan Williamson is crushing it tonight. And we do have another question from Lee Snyder, who was just on FFPC, I beg your pardon, HSFF Extra Reps. Question for Terp. As an Eagles expert, thoughts on Dontavian Wicks this season, Terp?
Now, this is a 2-part answer. Number 1, I've always been outspoken on Dontavian Wicks when he was with the Packers. My exact terminology was, he stinks. He's not very good. I'm trying not to be a homer here, but so far in camp, he looks the part. Now, we'll see if that pans out to anything on the field. He's made some plays early. I don't get too excited, overhyped on that. Do I think Dontavian Wicks is going to be a fantasy football producer this year in a redraft league? No, I don't. Do I see a potential in a best ball type of thing where you're getting him late to, hit your lineup a couple weeks? Yes, I do. Because I think the Eagles offense is very undervalued in drafts. And I know people are going to be like, he's an Eagles fan. he's just saying that. But if they continue to improve, if Lemon can stay healthy, Devonta Smith takes that next step. Goddard, we talked about with Dan, Wicks and Hollywood Brown. They have, Barkley coming back, offensive line healthy. It's all up to Hurts. It's all up to the OC to figure out a way to get more explosive plays. Last year was like literally taking forks and poking your eyes out when you're watching that offense with the talent they had. They have a ton of talent. They have a lot of different things that they didn't have in the past. What that means to me is a guy like Hollywood Brown. Do I think he's a great NFL receiver? No. But one thing he can do that the Eagles haven't had in a while is stretch the field. He can get down the field. Outside of Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, what have they really had? John Dotson, okay. Dallas Goedert. They're more like intermediate, a little bit 20 yards down the field. These aren't a lot of guys who are going to run a lot of deep shots with speed. Yeah, I know A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, but they're not burners. Hollywood Brown's a fast dude. And if they can get him to open up that field more, is he going to play every down? No. But a guy like him and a guy like Dontavian Wicks, I like him in best ball.
I do too. I 100%.
It makes sense. And it seems like he's really buying into everything, which is something that it seemed like in Green Bay. You're the Green Bay guy. He was always like talked about and hyped, but like didn't ever seem like he really ever bought into what they were trying. Like maybe he didn't play enough snaps. The rotation kind of annoyed him, but it seems like early on, it seems like he's looking the part. So we'll see if it pans out.
Yeah, I think I said this on one of last week's streams, that I made excuses for Dontavian Wicks basically every single year. You
just wanted somebody to be the guy. Let's just call it what it is.
Well, it wasn't necessarily that. I just felt like that there was a lot of untapped potential there, and I felt like sometimes the rotation that they had at receiver hurt not only him, but it hurt Reed, it hurt Watson, it hurt Dobbs. Maybe not.
Never let anybody fully develop.
Right. And so I would just make excuses. Well, if they ever gave him a shot, I think he'd be just fine. And now he should get a shot in Philly, especially if Lemon gets off to a slow start, which I don't know if he will or not, but certainly Wicks is going to factor in to that offense this year. And the new OC, Sean Mannion, got a first up close look at him the last couple of years when he was in Green Bay. We move on here tonight, Terp, and I want to talk about Justin Boone's team. Speaking of Makai Lemon, who was drafted at the 908. Justin Boone from Yahoo Fantasy is selecting his team from the 8 spot tonight. He ends up going with Hurts and Willis, probably like my most popular combo on my fantasy teams this year for quarterbacks.
I agree.
And then at running back, Achane, Kyron Williams, DeAndre Swift. He has not hit running back since the 5th round. Receivers are plentiful. Pickens, Parker Washington, Metcalf, Lemon, Michael Wilson, and Diggs. And then, of course, Bowers and Terrence Ferguson at the tight end position right now. When you look at Justin's team, he's about 2/3 of the way through. He's obviously loading up on receivers. Little surprised he hasn't added a 4th running back yet, but if Achane hits, maybe he doesn't need one.
Yeah, I mean, the running back room is a slight question, but, with Achane, obviously the questions we know, we talked about it, will Malik Willis dump it down? Is their offense is going to be dreadful and they're just not going to move the ball? I just love Achane, the player. I don't draft him a ton, but that doesn't mean I won't have enough. Kyron Williams, we talked about. DeAndre Swift's a guy that, it's hard not to like this year in that offense.
Mm-hmm.
I would have added some depth pieces, probably instead of – I love a lot of his picks. Like, it's really hard to, like, trash a pick. Like, all the guys he's drafted, like, I don't really have any downside to him. Like, I would probably have mixed in a Keaton Mitchell or a, Jordan Mason somewhere, or Chris Rodriguez or somebody like Tyrone Tracy as a 4th guy, as a little bit of a buffer, because now you're just kind of taking handcuffs right now, and that's fine. There's no downside. You're just betting on the 3 guys, but the rest of his team is really good, and it's a very, very well drafted team, and it's hard to find any holes because you got the stack in Philly, you got kind of a stack in Miami. You're taking Bowers, you're betting on Achane. It's a really, really well-drafted team.
HN, I think it'll be interesting for people, and obviously this isn't a chop format, but you think about the chop leagues that FFPC has where you're not drafting for ceiling, you're drafting for floor, basically. You just don't want to be the lowest scoring team in the league. And I wonder how HN would how people would feel about drafting him early in that, especially if he gets off to a rotten start. Chop leagues available now at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. As long as you don't finish as the lowest scoring team in your league, every single week of the season, you are guaranteed to win your league. Play for free FFPC main event entries, free Big Gorilla entries, or just cold hard cash. Those leagues start off at $35 at myffpc.com. That's Justin Boone's squad, one that we like there, and we'll see if he attacks running back here with his final, 7 picks, I want to say, and see how many he adds there. I just real quick, off of Justin's team. Terp, I still like the Diggs pick at the 1205. I know he's been rising up a little bit as we get closer to the start of the season.
I've said this to many
once he
people.
signs, I think he's go ahead.
If you everything you said is spot on. It's really hard to Diggs a Debo. Like, I'm not sitting here saying draft him in every draft, but you got to have exposure because there's no downside. Okay, is there ever a chance that Diggs doesn't sign with somebody? No, 0%. Unless he does something off the field, which is always a possibility. But him and Debo moved up. Debo went from like a guy that nobody wanted to draft to now is starting to move up boards because, oh, wow, now he's everybody's falling off in San Francisco. So now Debo's going to get work. It makes like same thing with Diggs. Like, where can Diggs sign that would make him stay where he's at? He could go to Buffalo. It's very, 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 very like unlikely. If he goes to Indianapolis, that's a killer for me. But if he goes with Jaden Daniels, how do you not like that?
Yeah.
It's Jaden Daniels is the perfect fit for him.
He
does all the intermediate stuff. Terry McLaurin's the deep threat. It makes so much sense. I don't know what they're waiting for.
And if Washington is serious about, and we don't know. I mean, maybe it's not Washington. Maybe it's Diggs just not wanting to play in training camp. It could be. I have no idea. But yeah, I would be most excited about Washington. I'll just say this too, and I know we're definitely more excited about Diggs the Commander than Diggs the Colt. But regardless of where he signs, that dude is going to shoot up at least 2 rounds of ADP once he's inked for an NFL team. And then at that point, hopefully your bags are already packed because now you're paying a little bit more for him.
And it's also uncomfortable because like he's let's just say he goes to Washington. Yeah, I love him in best ball, but in redraft, like, is it going to be? It's definitely going to be McLaurin. Is it going to be Chig? Is it going to be Diggs? Like, you're betting on a guy who might be the third target in that team. And there's some questions there. And obviously they have some guys behind that they kind of don't really know at this point. So that's when it gets a little tricky where you can get him now in the 12th round, 13th round in some drafts. Where's the downside?
Yeah. No, I think you're making some good points there. And obviously stuff that people are going to have to consider in all FFPC leagues, not just pros versus Joes. Dwain McFarland from FantasyLife is picking at the 4-hole tonight. And we should have talked about his team earlier. This is my fault, Turp. But what he did was 0 RB in a best ball format. He does not take a running back until the 6th round when he gets Jadarian Price. He has since added to that backfield with Harvey, Krosky, Merritt, Spears, and Sampson. The tight ends are Kraft and Sadiq. I know we touched on that briefly. And then Daniels, Love, and now Aaron Rodgers as his quarterbacks. But the meat of the draft was the 4 receivers he took early. Nakua, Neighbors, Collins, Burden. He gets Downs in the 8th round as well. So Dwain McFarland's team filling in nicely here. What do you make of his start, ignoring running back until the 609?
I love it. And every 0 RB team is very not for the safe. It's not. People that do it are certified serial killers. And I mean that in the nicest way possible because there's so many things that can happen. In, like, let's just say you start off with those 4 guys and then you tap Tucker Kraft. What if there's a running back run and like a crazy one that goes after you? You could be sitting there looking at like Parker Washington, Marvin Harrison, Carnell Tate, guys like that. And you're like, oh man, I can't really take them. Or am I going to push up a quarterback to get there? So, like, when you do it, if it falls, which, I mean, I don't love his running backs, but it makes sense with the build. I mean, with those 4 receivers, like, if you told me I could just take those 4 receivers, obviously if Neighbors is healthy, and place them on every one of my teams, I'd be thrilled about that. Just to fill in the cracks, getting Tucker Kraft, who's obviously been a riser, Jaden Daniels, who, if he's healthy, is a top 5 quarterback. Price, who has the perfect fit in Seattle with obviously questions with Charbonnet and then 2 guys who are kind of journeymen. Then you're still adding Josh Downs. The other guys, RJ Harvey, it's hard to tell that story. JCM, I'm starting to tell that story a lot more because I'm starting to hear that drum beat a little bit in Washington. And then Spears and Sampson, like it'll be tough to find 2 guys every week in that group. That's the only one who gets a little tricky. To me, you got to punt a position, and it's really hard to punt running back. But Dwain is, like I said, he's one of the smartest guys in this industry, and he's a guy that if anybody can figure out, it'll be him. But it's not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that, because it's like you said, your patented line, which I love. It's one of my favorite lines you say. I like to have a balanced roster, and if you start off 4 running backs, 4 receivers, whatever, you eliminate that. Value is really hard to take.
Right.
So you got to either take your guys, or like once you see your certain guys are going to stare you in the face, and you're just like, I just can't take that guy, and I really want to very bad. So he pulled it off, but it's risky. That running back room, he should not take another position besides running backs. I mean, there's not a lot of a solid left, but that's what it comes down to.
I will say, in regards to going 0 RB in best ball, there's a reason that you are taking those wide receivers and those tight ends in those first 5 picks, because they probably should be going in the first 5 rounds, right? So they're good. They should be good producers. And if if you hit on, you don't even have to hit on all of them, but if you hit on 4 of them, then all of a sudden, what do you need to do later on in the draft? Hit on 1 running back, and then maybe 1 other tight end or 1 other receiver. Or
1 injury happens, everything falls into place. That's why.
That's my point. Like for this, like if you are sharp and like Dwain, and you know your stuff, and you feel really confident in your ability to draft 5 studs in the first 5 rounds, then you just got to get a little bit fortunate later on in the draft with like 1 or 2 players out of the 15 that are there. And all of a sudden you could be looking at a free main event entry in the FFPC next year.
And there's a lot of very smart guys that are buying into the 0 RB this year. I guess I'm not smart because I'm not.
I see. I thought like it a step back. Like I still see it every so often. It's definitely not as prevalent as it was.
No, if anything, it's like a 10% out of a, usually it was like you saw a ton of, the ship chasing guys, all those, well-known guys that were doing it every draft. It was like, all right, we're just going to mix it in, or the hero RB.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of smart people do a lot of 0 RB this year, zigging when everybody's zagging. I get it. It's just risky because, in my opinion, running back, the drop-off is massive when you get to a certain spot. And it's like in a best ball league, that's different. But in a redraft, like main event, gorilla type of situation, baby gorilla, when you're looking at having to click a button of RJ Harvey or JCM or Blake Corum every week or Aaron Jones, it's tough. You could be great everywhere else, but it's just tough. And if you don't get that production early in the season, by the time it does start taking off, you could be done.
Terp mentioned the FFPC Big Gorilla. Allow me to tell everybody the 7 Bananas promo is still live with the Big Gorilla right now. Every time you enter that draft, fingers crossed you get a 7 pick, because if you keep stacking up multiple 7 picks consecutive times, you're going to get free FFPC teams, free best ball tournament teams, free main event teams, free high society teams. And then if you get it 5 times in a row, boom, Jungle Safari for 4. Or if you're not a Safari type, we'll just give you $50,000 too. That's the other part. Why are you doing this? It's just an added bonus. The reason you're playing in the Big Gorilla is to win that $1 million grand prize. Remember, you're getting a $50 discount off every 3rd team. Live drafts and slow drafts going on right now throughout the remainder of drafting season, all the way up until week 1. The FFPC Big Gorilla back for year 2 at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. We go back and we're sitting here now in round 17. No, round 16, the tail end of round 16. Michael Mayer, I believe, left practice with a busted up nose today. Clint Kubiak said, I think it was today or maybe it was yesterday. I'm getting it mixed up right now. But what do you make of Mayer going to Harry Mills, the FFPC Joe squad here at 3? He doesn't have Bowers, but if anything were to happen to Bowers, Terp, with the lack of proficient and known and solid receivers on that Las Vegas team. I wonder if Bowers were to miss time, knock on wood, hopefully he doesn't. I wonder what Mayer could be as in that offense. A lot of contingent upside for the 16th round here.
1,000%. I mean, you never want to bet. I mean, Bowers is clearly a guy that I think is going to continue to rise up. He can't really rise much more, but he's just the guy that's having all positivity around him right now. There's no negative shade. But Mayer, is going to be on the field enough to maybe, in a best ball format, hit your lineup a couple times. And if God forbid something happens to Bowers, I mean, you could be sitting at a 16th round draft pick that's gold. And when you're down here and you're trying to look for that guy who could be a league winner or a Pros versus Joe's winner, you look at guys like this. You look at guys like, I know people hate Cade Otton. I get it. I understand he doesn't score touchdowns, but Baker Mayfield for some reason doesn't hate him. And you see some splash plays. He's had some big catches. Type of situation, especially with FFPC scoring. You could do way worse as your third tight end in a best ball format. David Njoku, probably out there. We talk about the Chargers a bunch. It's just a crowded room. I love Oronde Gadsden pre-David Njoku. I don't really care about Charlie Kohler. If he beats me, I guess I could just whatever. But you look at some of these picks that are getting taken early, and you could always tell a story like A.J. Barner as a third tight end. Why would you say no to that? Like, what's the downside? He's probably going to get your lineup 2, 3, 4 times. Maybe he hits it a little bit more, and if it does, that's only going to catapult your team up the rankings because we all know injuries happen and you got to get guys who are going to be on the field and who are going to give you something. And some of the biggest mistakes people make in best balls, they take the shiny new toy and the shiny new toy gets them zeros all year. That's a mistake that I've personally made a bunch. You see them all. You see every year. It's like, oh, this guy's going to be great. He's going to be awesome. And he's a 0 until week 13. And by week 13, you're on the beach. And it doesn't matter.
I think the best advice for people who want to go with those young bucks, those unknowns, those mystery boxes, those door number 2 is probably play FFPC Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Yes, sir.
I will look at what Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein did here in the 16-17 turn. A pair of Allens, a pair of rookies, Cyrus and Katron, 2 guys that are definitely going high in FFPC startups right now. FFPC Dynasty startups and Empire Dynasty startups. We have both live and slow options for you. They start at $100. They go up to 5,000, and you can let these rookies marinate on your team until they're ready to contribute. MyFFPC.com is where to go. Play fantasy football year-round, 2,200 dynasty leagues, and not a single one has ever folded at MyFFPC.com. I want to bring on our next guest, ladies and gentlemen. You know him, you love him, you watched him on this show, fill in for Farrell Elliott, roughly, I would say 2 months ago, almost to the date. And he is back tonight, drafting tonight from the 5-hole. You can follow him and connect with him on the X at FHuang21. He is Fred Huang. Welcome aboard, Fred. Thanks for popping on, man.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
What's up, Fred?
It's going well, but how's it going with you? What do you think of your team here as you only have a few picks left tonight in your Pros versus Joe's debut?
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a tough one. I mean, I know a lot of the guys, I follow them, and there wasn't a lot that fell. Definitely did it. Don't love the team, but, you never know. It's best ball. Things can happen.
Things can happen, for sure. I talked about this sort of discussion that's starting to develop among a good plurality of high stakes players about maybe taking St. Brown over Smith and Jigba in the first round. You go with Smith and Jigba. Was that a conversation in your head at all? Were you contemplating St. Brown there? Or when you saw the top 4 off the board, did you just know like, okay, Smith and Jigba is my guy here?
Yeah, the top 4 is kind of chalk. So the draft usually starts at 5 and there's, kind of 4 guys that I've seen go. I'm between JSN and Bowers, and I personally have Bowers higher, but my ownership of Bowers is just over 25%. So I'm trying to balance things out a bit. I don't want to be underweight on JSN, and so I decided to build it out this way.
I'm noticing, Fred, there is a huge presence of Kansas City Chiefs on this squad that you have built. Walker in the second, Rice in the third. You also get Patrick Mahomes in the 9th. You add Xavier Worthy in the 11th. Was this sort of just, I don't want to say planting your flag, but just kind of saying, okay, if I win this thing, it's going to be because of the Chiefs here? Or are you a really big believer in that offense taking a big step forward in 2026?
No, absolutely not. I am a Raiders fan, so this has been a painful one. I think the quarterbacks, I've been doing more redraft lately, and obviously in best ball, the quarterbacks go a little bit sooner. So I think the plan was to take like Drake May or Jaden in the 6th, and then Bucky fell pretty far. I've been like really off Bucky this year. So end of 6th, it was kind of one of those kind of adjustments I made on the fly. And then, quarterbacks quickly went after that. So Mahomes is kind of the guy there, had Walker, had Rice, so kind of stacked it up a little bit.
The Irving Gainwell picks, I know you mentioned how Irving fell, and he did. He's basically a round behind his ADP for the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. You get him at quite the value tonight. Then in round 8, you take Gainwell. Was that by design, or was he just the best running back there for you, or did you want to sort of have some security in that Tampa Bay backfield?
Yeah, I usually go light at running back in these best balls. I have 5 or 6, so it doesn't hurt to have a couple guys. Gainwell was my highest rated guy there. I don't love getting 2 from the same team. In the bigger tournaments, when you're out with thousands of people, you never want to take the cuff. But this is essentially a 12-man league, so you can kind of get away with it, and they're both going to have a role. So, okay, I just got up on the clock. And
right, Fred, I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna set this up. You contemplate your pick. Fred is on the clock right now at the 18:08. The team so far for Fred Wong is Mahomes, Nick Stroud at quarterback, Walker, Irving, Gainwell, Tracy, Brian Robinson at running back. The receivers are Smith and Jigba, Rice, McMillan, Tyson, Worthy, Trey Harris. The tight ends, Kyle Pitts, Gunnar Helm, and AJ Barner. Fred, you could go in a lot of different directions here, but you say, what the hell? How about a third Buccaneers running back?
Yeah, I just got the backfield. If one of them gets hurt, the other 2 should have roles. And something I've never done, but hey, we're trying a new thing out, and we'll see if it materializes. I could definitely see how it will not.
It's funny because you never want to see your guys hurt, but if one or God forbid 2 of these guys go down, I mean, you could be looking at a massive return on really any of them, like Irving, Tucker, Gainwell. They all could be big if one of these guys misses time. Has there been, Fred, as you only have 2 picks left, did you have any fist pump picks tonight where you get on the clock, you avoided snipes, and your guy was still there? Did you have any of those picks that you were really pumped up about getting?
There wasn't any great values that fell. It's just been that type of room. There's actually been quite the opposite where, guys fell that I probably wouldn't normally take, like Bucky, and that kind of, played things out a little differently. So I would say in the second round, I kind of wanted to go Loveland there. But Ken Walker falling, it was like the last of that running back tier in my mind. So kind of played things on the fly. And I don't know, like Helm, AJ Barner, they're fine. They're decent in that late. So, I don't love this team, but it's best ball. Things can happen.
Yeah,
sure
right.
can.
Yeah. Fred, we sent out the early draft slots for the FFPC main event on Sunday afternoon, right around there. And I'm trying to see what you got here. It looks like you got an 11 spot for the main event this year.
Yeah. So that'll be my 3rd main, and my 2nd time getting 11. And I think 11 has been kind of the slot I've been getting. So if you guys were doing that,
same, man. Same.
And so I've been drafting from 11 so much that my
you're dialed in.
CeeDee Lamb, Barkley, Hampton, I've got a lot of exposure to those same guys. So I was really hoping that I guess I just got to do more drafts and try to get my exposure up to get some more. Yeah.
Jalen Noel is their pick here at the 19 spot in a Houston offense that I think will be a little bit different this year. The offensive line is better. CJ Stroud is another year older. I know they've been talking up Higgins and Noel there in is it Noel or Noel? I always mix it up.
It's whatever you want it to be.
Okay, well, yeah, we'll do Noel tonight. What are your thoughts on his role in Houston this year? Is this simply like you're hoping for a few spike weeks out of this guy in the 19th, Fred?
It's a backstack. I liked him as a prospect. I think he went later in the draft than people were thinking. But it's pretty crowded in Houston. I mean, that's a team that wants to play defense and run the football. So you got Higgins, you got Nico, you got Dalton Schultz, Noel, Tank Dell will be back. So it's not really a team I've been attacking a lot of. But in these best balls, you kind of like having the stacks at the end. So, I like building these out, and I won't spoil the last pick, but try to get a few of those. And typically I do that more on the tournament ones. I guess this isn't as important to do that, but he's a really good player. He was, I think he fell a little bit further than people thought in the draft. So if the opportunity does come up, if they're in some game scripts that I'm not predicting, he could be good.
86th receiver off the board, and he belongs to one Fred Huang here. Jalen Noel at the 1905. Fred, thanks so much for coming aboard tonight. I wish you nothing but the best of luck, not only in winning Pros versus Joes, a loaded Pros versus Joes, where I mean, you even told us not a lot of values falling tonight. We'll see if your team's on the level and one of the elite ones at the end of the year to see if you can buy your way for free into the 2027 main event. Until then, we will continue to follow you on X at FHuang21. Fred, thank you so much for hopping aboard, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'll just say this, Dan, Dwain, JB, like these are the three of the people I follow the most, and they're all fantastic. So are all the pros and the Joes in this one. So no surprise that it's a really sharp draft.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you were one of the sharp ones tonight, Fred. Good luck with that final pick. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Fred.
You got it. Fred Huang, former guest of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, a couple of former guest co-hosts of the HSFF Hour a couple of months ago. Good to have him aboard from the 5 spot here tonight, telling us what he thinks about his squad and the remainder of the squads here in this Pros versus Joes number 5. We look at the Mike Washington pick here at the 1908. Justin Boone takes him. I think it was last week, Terp. We saw that Mike Washington was actually getting first team snaps with the Raiders. Could he be more or a little bit more than just a simple a guy behind the guy in Las Vegas behind Genty?
I mean, there's been a lot of positive press about him, and there's been no talk about everybody else. I mean, at the end of the day, I would be shocked if Ashton Genty didn't get a ton of carries and Washington was more just like a supplementary guy. But I mean, we saw what they did in Seattle with under Kubiak. They didn't ever run any of those guys into the ground. So is there a world where Washington gets a little bit more snaps than you think? Yes. And where he's being drafted, it's just like when you get down to this in these late rounds, no matter what format you're drafting more on speculation. Mm-hmm. And you can easily tell yourself that a 19th round handcuff can make a ton of sense if you draft Ashton Genty or you don't draft Ashton Genty, because all these other guys that are going right in the range, I think Washington is going to be the best pick out of all of them, because maybe he just doesn't pan out. He's a rookie. He doesn't know how to pass block. We can go down the list, but he's going to get some work early. And if he can perform and show what he can do, he's going to stay around. And again, there's nobody else that's been talked about behind him. So Genty's the guy, but Washington's the guy that is sneaky and the guy that I've been, adding a little bit more lately.
Boone follows up the Washington pick with Eric All here at the 2005. That was 2 picks after Mac Jones was selected by one Drew Davenport. He gets Purdy and he gets Mac Jones on this. And if you say, listen, I love Mac Jones, I'm a big Alabama fan, why is he being disrespected and going in the 20th round? Well, if you don't like that, check out the FFPC Superflex Best Ball Tournament, a tournament that will feature Mac Jones not going in the 20th round. Quarterbacks get a lot of love there, and it's just $35 to enter, $100,000 grand prize. You can draft live tonight We'll have live Superflex best ball tournaments going until 1 a.m. Eastern time this evening. Slow drafts will start as soon as they fill as well. It's a lot of fun, and you can win $100K for just $35 at myffpc.com. That's myffpc.com. Wrapping things up tonight, coming into the home stretch of this Pros versus Joes number 5 draft here. Terp, my normal co-host for the HSFF Hour, a guy who will return tomorrow, and you know how he feels about Chris Bell. I and Jeremiah Turner ends up taking Chris Bell here tonight. Jeremiah Turner and Chris Herbert from the 7 spot. I had the opportunity to draft him in a best ball in Kentucky today, and I decided not to. I just don't know how much he's going to be on the field recovering from that torn ACL. And I know if he does offer anything, it'll probably be at the end of the season. I just don't know if I'm willing to soak even a late round roster spot in that. How do you see Chris Bell's stats looking at the end of the year?
I agree. I like the player. I think the player has potential. But in a best ball format, I think he could give you all zeros all season. He could be a guy that you add for $1, add for $2 in a redraft a couple weeks early and just like kind of let it play out. And maybe he, comes up and ramps up and they start, utilizing at the end of the season. But it's just a tough story to tell to me. So Farrell loves Chris Bell, and I don't mind Chris Bell either, but he's a rookie. He's on a bad team. They're going to take their time with him. They're going to hold him, back as much as possible. And yeah, he might be an end of the year type of guy, but by that time, you could be dead. So, like I said, speculation ad in a redraft, a couple bucks before when you start hearing some positive stuff on him. But that's it for me.
I love the fun little nugget that Dan Williamson is sending us off with tonight. He gets Drake May and Jared Goff from the 2-hole, and then Terpy adds a little Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy as the final pick for him from the 2 spot tonight. You got to love to see that.
Dan did a great job tonight. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
I came on tonight to hopefully try to rip him, and in all honesty, I can't find a pick that I think is terrible. I mean, they're all. Maybe not Kittle's for me, but that's fine. But every other pick, I'm not the biggest Jeremiah Love guy. I probably take Breece Hall over him, but it's not like anything that's like crazy. But he had a really, really good draft. He had a lot of things fall to him, and he took advantage of them all.
2 of the teams that we talked about a lot tonight were Dan Williamson and Justin Boone squad from the 2-hole and the 8-hole. And FF, the real G Money, says Team 2 and Team 8 will battle for the championship in this format. So going to be fun to see Williamson and Boone butting heads, as well as everybody else. I apologize. We couldn't break down every team tonight, but we did get to some of them. The Guru, John Hansen, I definitely wanted to get into his, and Mauricio Gutierrez, as far as the pros go from the 12 spot. I thought he had an interesting draft as well that's worth mentioning. So I'll mention it. Good job, Mauricio. Good job, Dave Tripoli. For hanging out tonight. The last 2 nights, no Farrell. We get him back tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's going to be a lot of fun at Dave Terp on the X. Until tomorrow, Terp, thanks so much and enjoy your Monday evening.
See you tomorrow.
You got it. That is Dave Terpoli, the 14-time FFPC League champion. That's going to complete our stream tonight. By the way, I don't know if you noticed this before, but Terp did mention the baby gorilla as well. And I told you about the big gorilla. The baby gorilla is something new this year. $125 to enter. Perfect entry point if you've never played high stakes fantasy football and want to compete with a 6-figure grand prize. The baby gorilla features managed leagues, lineup setting, waivers, blind bidding, picking players up, setting your lineups, everything like that. In the baby gorilla, it's the exact same as the big gorilla, just $125 to enter that and $100K grand prize. Register now for live and slow drafts at myffpc.com for that. That will wrap up Pros versus Joes 5. We put a bow on the whole thing tomorrow with Pros versus Joes number 6 starting at 10 p.m. Eastern time. It's affectionately and maybe appropriately called garbage time. It is the final Pros versus Joes live draft here on the streams that we'll be doing this year. The FFPC Joes will be drafting from the even spots tomorrow. Longtime, super talented FFPC player Dave Coman will be drafting as one of the Joes. Caleb Alcorn and Sean Isaacs, former Pros versus Joes overall champs, from like 6 years ago or 7 years ago. They make their return this year. They're drafting from the 4 spot. Caleb just came on the road of his high stakes slowdown with me last month and got a chance to catch up with him. Talked about strategy for PVJ. Go back and listen to that on the road of his feed or anywhere you get podcasts, as well as the FFPC socials. We have Steve G and David Hubbard also teaming up tomorrow. Steven Yergalos and David Hubbard, the 2016 FFPC main event overall champ there in the 6 spot. Red Auerbach from the 8 spot tomorrow. Clayton Etheridge, who was a guest on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour a couple of weeks ago. He'll be drafting from the 10. And then former HSFF Hour guest and Rotoviz High Stakes Lowdown guest, Paul Teixeira and Peter Puzo, drafting from the 12 spot. That's the Joes. Those are the Joes, I should say. The pros tomorrow from FF today is going to be Doug Orth. And I know Doug's doing some work for Fantasy Points as well. So Doug Orth will have the first pick tomorrow. FFmastermind.com's Mike Nazarick will be picking 3rd tomorrow. You're going to see John Daigle from Establish the Run at the 5 spot. Also from Establish the Run, Evan Silva from the 7 hole tomorrow. Darren Armani, the godfather of the pros versus Joes, is picking 9th tomorrow. And then John Paulson from 4 for 4 is the final pro drafting from the 11 spot tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. I want to remind everybody to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. If you're not familiar with the FFPC podcast, the first Tuesday of every month, except for when we have pros versus Joes going on, I host the Rotoviz High Stakes Lowdown Tuesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. That goes weekly when the NFL season starts. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is weekly year-round at 10 p.m. Wednesday nights, as is the spinoff podcast, HSFF Hour Extra Reps. That goes live Friday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, you can catch me right here on this same stream Thursday nights for FFPC Insider Access from 7 until 9 p.m. Hanging out with a lot of the pros that you've been watching draft over the last couple of weeks who've come on as my co-host on there. I want to thank Fred Huang. I want to thank Dan Williamson, Drew Davenport, Dave Tripoli, Darren Armani, the FFPC, producer and mutual friend Rob, audio engineer, my best friend Bryce, and of course, most of all, you listeners, you streamers, you downloaders, you viewers. We appreciate it. A lot of good feedback tonight, a lot of viewers tonight, and we will go out with a bang with Farrell Elliott tomorrow, obviously, as well. FFPC Player 1 is the last thing I'll mention tonight. Draft against 11 smart FFPC CPU players and win cash. In fact, for a lot of you who got your main event slots on Sunday, you know which spot you're picking at. Why not try to mock that from an FFPC draft standpoint in Player 1? You can choose your draft slot there and still win cash for it. MyFFPC.com, play Player 1. It's not available everywhere, but it's available in a lot of spots in the country. Try it out for $10. See if you like it or not. If it's for you, you're going to love it. If it's not for you, at least you know it's not for you. But you can help prep for your main event against 11 smart FFPC CPU players, which all have different profiles, all have different ways that they like to draft, and you never know who's going to be in your draft. Check out Player 1 at myffpc.com. For Dave Tripoli, I am Eric Balkman. This has been the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your week officially continues now.